I think I might have considered pursuing a career as a DJ, but I'm not good at keeping track of lots of moving parts and get my rhythm confused kind of easily, and I'm bad at dancing and don't like clubs and don't like talking to people or generally being around people. But other than that, I think I'd be great at it. I even have this book about it. It cites Michel Foucault, the OG DJ. But hey, we live in the future. And even if you, like me, are missing every skill it takes to be a DJ, well, there's a fix for that. Welcome to Electronauts, a VR space DJ simulator released in August 2018 by game development studio Survios. After you disembark your Space DJ spaceship in the Space DJ space station, you get to, as the game's Steam description puts it, build, drop, remix, and jam with your friends and top artists. Following which you get to create songs, crush sets, and express yourself like never before. Electronauts gives you 8 tools to express all your deepest, darkest creative desires, including the orbs, which add notes, short melodies, or drum sounds when you hit them, and let you create and save your own loops. Or the FX cube, which filters the ongoing texture depending on where within the cube you hold your drumstick. You can also draw a path through the cube to loop a certain filtering effect. Every tool changes in big and small ways to match up with whatever song is playing, so that whatever you do, it sounds good. Electronauts calls this their music reality engine. It's actually called quantization. Essentially, quantization is a process through which users' rhythmic inputs are transformed to fit in more neat and orderly patterns. For experienced musicians, it's annoying. The instrument isn't actually sounding like you're playing it. But for people who can't tell any better, it feels great. It feels like they're somehow just naturally doing it right without even trying. Even when they're definitely not. Like, even when they are definitely not. Full disclosure, I read a player review that said that you could turn this feature off, but I couldn't find it in any of the options menus. Fuller disclosure, I did not look that hard for it. But player reviews seem to suggest that most users can't even tell. Feedback for the game is overwhelmingly positive, with tons of reviews talking about how cool the application is, about the cool music that they created, and recommending it to everyone, saying that it really makes them feel like a DJ. But how? Real DJs would get bored with Electronauts in a matter of minutes. I mean, a real-life DJ interface looks something like this. Look at all those buttons and sliders and knobs. DJs design their setups to give them tons of freedom to mix music in countless ways. In contrast, Electronauts only has 8 tools. Clearly, it's not the freedom and flexibility of Electronauts that makes users feel like a DJ. So, what is it? Well, that answer has 2 parts. Linguist Ruth Perry argues actions and their outcomes can be framed linguistically to separate the agency of the body and the self. There are 2 polar configurations, either the body and the self as one and the same, or the body and the self as entirely separate entities. The former marked by personal language, like me, my, and you, your, and the latter marked by impersonal language, like this or that. This sort of linguistic framing is already common in how we talk about video games. Think about Super Smash Bros. When one is losing, it's common to hear sentiments to the effect of, "This character is so underpowered," thus separating the self and the game entity to attribute accountability for the loss entirely to the game entity. Similarly, if one is doing well, the loser can save face by claiming that character is so overpowered, thus attributing accountability for the victory entirely to the game entity. On the other hand, when one is doing particularly well, it's common to hear sentiments to the effect of, I'm pwning you, thus making the game entity and the self one and the same to attribute accountability for the victory entirely to the self.
In their marketing materials, Electronauts uses personal pronouns to refer to the user, saying, Electronauts sets the stage for you to DJ, perform, and make music magic in VR. That music is frequently referred to as your sounds, your style, your set. This language makes the user and the Electronauts interface one and the same, so that they can attribute all of the responsibility for making the music to the user. Similarly, the description of the music reality engine carefully hides what it is that system is actually doing. They say, Electronauts is powered by Survios's proprietary music reality engine, which transforms song elements into interactive components that will always sound epic no matter how you mix them. The engine transforms song elements, not really saying what those song elements are or how it's transforming them, but you mix them, clearly giving the user credit for creating the mix. The description carefully avoids saying that the engine is transforming the user's inputs, as that would highlight the separation between the user and the Electronauts interface. Then the description concludes by once again calling the music your unique arrangements. Steam reviews seem to suggest that this tactic is working. Players say, I can make sick sounds, and go as far as to say Electronauts can potentially give players the skills to DJ in real life, saying, if you ever wanted to be a music producer, mix music, or be a DJ, give this a try. In multiple reviews, players compare themselves to Daft Punk, saying, you're basically a member of Daft Punk while playing this, and if you want to feel like Daft Punk on bloody crack, download this. Emphasizing their own lack of musical ability is common among reviewers, claiming that despite waving their arms around like wet spaghetti noodles, or simply being a potato, even they feel like a real DJ when using the application. Linguistically, Electronauts isn't selling an interface that lets you remix songs. They're selling the experience of being a DJ, and users are buying it. Now let's be real, my lack of necessary musical and social skills is not the only reason I can't be a DJ. I'm also too much of a loser. Just kidding, there are plenty of DJs who are losers. But really, being a DJ has a certain sort of aesthetic about it, and Electronauts strives to embody that aesthetic. That book I mentioned before about OG DJ Foucault is actually called Playing with Something That Runs by music theorist Mark Butler, and it does a really great job outlining some of the aspects of this DJ aesthetic. To oversimplify, he argues that because of the pre-recorded and remixed nature of dance music, it's less clear what a performance looks like when compared to, say, someone playing a violin. Because of this, DJs have to perform performance. But what does a performance of performance look like? Well, there are three parts: the interface, the movement, and the cyborg. First, the interface. I showed you that picture earlier of a typical DJ interface full of buttons and knobs. Well, the construction of that interface is actually a big part of a DJ's performative identity. DJ interfaces are made up of a lot of smaller parts that can be mixed and matched to best facilitate whatever it is a DJ wants to do during their performance. In fact, a lot of DJs recount feeling overwhelmed if they're given too many options during a performance. To counteract this, they have to carefully construct their interface to best facilitate what it is they want to do in their performance, thus making that interface a significant part of their performative identity. Second, exaggerated movement. When performing primarily from a laptop, DJs can also fear that they look like they're checking their email rather than performing music. To counteract this, they really over-exaggerate their interactions with the interface. Butler calls this the passion of the knob, where rather than just turning one of those knobs, they'll really put their entire body into it, committing to the movement, really performing that performance. Finally, the cyborg. For a lot of DJs, there's this desire to become one with the interface, or to become so familiar with their setup that they no longer need to even think about how they're using it. It basically becomes an extension of their body. This sort of becoming one with technology is what the cyborg is all about. but augmenting the self with these technologies. Think about Daft Punk. They literally wear robot costumes everywhere they go. Their performative identity is heavily tied to this integration of their selves with their technology. Theoretically, it makes it seem like they are such experts with their technology that they no longer have to think about how they use it. They have become one with the interface. Electronauts is designed to exemplify all three parts of this aesthetic. First, the interface. As I said before, the game gives you 8 tools to make your mixes, but it only gives you space to use 3 of them at any given moment. You have to choose which set of tools will best facilitate your creative self-expression, making your own interface, and by extension, your own DJ identity. Second, exaggerated movement. You interact with all the tools with a pair of drumsticks, always requiring some sort of big motion, even if you're not actually hitting anything. So rather than you having to choose to exaggerate your movements, Electronauts just makes you do it, turning you into a DJ against your will. And finally, the cyborg. I mean, just look at Electronauts' visuals. You're literally controlling a robot DJ in space. Also, don't forget this is a VR game, so to play Electronauts, you have to put on a headset and use controllers that are literally augmenting yourself with technology. In a way, you are literally a cyborg when playing Electronauts. So after linguistically framing you as a DJ, Electronauts makes you look and feel like one through its aesthetics. So if Electronauts is putting so much effort into making you feel like a DJ when using it, who is it really made for? Certainly not professional DJs. They would already feel like DJs, right? Reviews show that users who don't really have much musical experience really take on the identity of a DJ when playing Electronauts. But how do real-life DJs feel about it? Well, thankfully, Servios asked one for us.
It's the future, man. That's all I can say. The future of beat making right here. I can see this, turning beat making into a whole nother thing.
Like, you remixed this song in 2 minutes in real time, and it would have taken me to add all those breaks and to do the filtering and stuff. That's like hundreds of hours of studio work.
Here's the thing. Electronauts doesn't let you export any sort of full remixes, so it's really not a useful tool for doing that. I guess you could still use it for improvisation, but like I said earlier, you only have space for 3 tools at any given time. Plus, the Music Reality Engine really limits what a user can actually do. Far be it for me to question the integrity of Servios, but I don't buy it. And I don't think professional DJs are buying Electronauts. But we also have to ask, who is Servios anyway? Well, you probably know them from creating Raw Data and Sprint Vector, 2 games which won numerous VR Game of the Year awards in 2016 and 2017, respectively. Clearly, Servios is a VR game powerhouse. They create games for general audiences, not tools for professional creatives. They are game developers, not DJs. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I want to be really clear. I don't think Electronauts is a bad game because it focuses more on feeling like a DJ than actually making music like one. There are already way too many inaccessible, pretentious music spaces filled with inaccessible, pretentious people. Music should bring people together, but too often we let notions of genius and perfection make music production seem unattainable. Electronauts lets people who have never had the opportunity to learn music live their dreams of being DJs, if only for a few minutes. And how could I possibly be mad at that? Thanks for watching. If you like this video, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe. If you play Electronauts for yourself, leave a comment letting me know what you think. Does it make you feel like a DJ? Do you think that's a bad thing? Until next time.